where you've been, what you've done, and what you have done to you. You are the part of the journey that God knew you were going to.
Good morning. All right, you guys know I like you guys to talk back to me. This morning, we are privileged to have a guest with us, all the way from California. She was speaking at a RISE conference. This year, guys, it was off the chain. It was good. Next year, Crystal knows she was there. Next year, you guys got to go. Come join me so I'm not sitting by myself, Have some peeps with me. No, I made friends. I have friends, over there. So anyway, we have Miss Tina Konkin here from, like I said, from California. She and her husband founded Relationship Lifeline, and she is an expert on relationships and how to mend them and how to get them back in line what they're supposed to be. And I'm pretty sure they're going to play her video, but if you guys need help in that area, I can't plug her enough because, Chris and I were okay, but we went through that and got even better. It's for wherever you are. But we are so glad that she is here today. So let's give it up for Miss Tina as she comes speak.
All right. Well, a lot has happened since I was last here, so I'm excited to be here. Today's message, but before I start my message, I really want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Now, this is all about me, okay? I know this is a real free church, and I love it. That's why I love worship here. And I love your worship team. We were privileged to have them at Arise. They were awesome. And while we're giving a clap offering, can you please give a clap offering to Sam and his crew back there? The whole crew. I am their nightmare, okay? I really am. I just, when I get these, and I get them from every church I speak at, everywhere I speak, can you please send us stuff? And I hesitate. I said, can I just bring my USB? Well, it would really help if we had it ahead of time. And I don't want to go into a long explanation of why I don't want to send it ahead of time. So I just send it, knowing that's probably not what I'm going to use. But hey, they want it. I want to submit, and so I just go ahead and send them anything. Anything, doesn't matter, even if it's not mine. I just send them something just to appease them. But with God's house, I try to be a little bit nicer, and I really try. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do my best. Now, Lord, just like you can speak to me the morning of, you can speak to me a week in advance. So this is God's house, your house. And it's in Maui, in paradise. Can I just have the message? So he assured me I had the message till this morning. And then I went, really? Like, really? Now I've got to write to Sam and say, scrap that and take this and take that. And by the way, if you're confused, I'll have my USB. Right? So, Sam, how do I let churches know that USB is the only way I fly? Is there a secret to that? Or is it just that you guys are anal back there? See? I knew I'd get a thumbs up on that. They like advance notice. Anyways, so I just wanted to shout out, okay, for them. And usually by the time I get to this time in the service, I pretty much know what my message is going to be. Though that's not guaranteed. But before you start that clock, I've got one more thing. And again, this is just for me, okay? If you feel the Spirit come upon you and you want to start running, can you go outside? And I'll tell you why. It's not about you. It's I'll just keep following you until you finish. And I stop, and then I don't know where I am. And then that's not fair to the other 99, okay? But if I feel it come upon me, I'll go outside with you. All right? So if you feel that movement or that dancing going on, I'm like my husband used to say, honey, don't follow rabbit trails. You become a rabbit trail for me. And so I get distracted. I went to this church. Actually, you were there with me. You helped me speak at that church. She was awesome. I invited her to come. Where were we, though? It was some funny, Michigan, Kalamazoo. We're in Kalamazoo, and I'm looking out at my audience, and they're all wearing these green shirts, right? Like, a lot of them are wearing green sheets. Not all of them, but there was a fair number, because I kept saying green and green and green and green. And it seemed that every table had green. And I thought, look, I can't deal with this. Like, I can't get back. And she's my witness. Is that not true? So I have to really watch for distractions. I had to stop in the middle of it, and I said, please tell me what club you're part of, because I feel really out of the circle. And you know, they said it was the first time, and it was their volunteers. But it didn't say volunteer. It didn't say the church name. It was just green, you know. And I thought, why didn't I get a green shirt? Like, they look like part of a group or a crowd, you know. So they said it was the first time in the history of their church that they've ever given an honorary green shirt. I got it. They gave it to me. All right. So again, if you feel like you're going to do something weird, like weird to me, right, but not weird to you, and maybe not weird to God's house, can you just go do it outside? Is that okay? Just for me, because or else we'll never get through this message. All right. Today's my message is about pain to joy. And it's a special message to my heart, and I shared a little bit of it at Arise yesterday, or Friday, because I believe that if we are willing to go through pain, joy will be on the other side. And I want to show you a picture of my family. Those of you that know me have seen this picture. It's the last picture I have. I'm a widow of 5 years at Christmas. It is the last picture I have with my husband about 2 months before he passed away. I show this picture everywhere I go, even though the people in it, my family has grown. I have 2 more grandchildren. But I show it because it is a reminder to me that our lives are made up of portraits of pain and portraits of joy. But they're also made up of portraits that I hope are in your mind before they happen. Let me explain that. That picture was in my mind when I was 18 years old. I did not marry, and I know exactly when that picture came to my mind. It was on the mountain of Israel. I'm going back there on November 15th. I haven't been there since I was 18. But I was at the top of Jerusalem looking out, and God's giving me a vision of His plan for my life. And He brings me to Isaiah 55, where it talks about you will have many children that you did not labor and birth. And I was crying at the call of God on my life. I was on a missions trip for a year, and we were going from country to country. And He said, you will bear children, and I will be their father. But you will have many children. But somehow in my 18-year-old mind, I got the picture that if I'm not birthing them, and God's their father, He will be like a father to them. That means I'm not getting married, and I'm not going to have my own children. I didn't like that. So I said, God, and I wiped my tears. I said, not getting emotional about this, but I want a real husband, and I want real children, and I'll birth all the other ones in the spirit that you want me to birth. But I want real flesh and blood. Well, I did get married 4 or 5 years later, and He did grant me my wish. And I had 2 children by natural birth, and then I adopted my baby girl, Mia, that many of you know. And she's now 14. She was 9 in that picture when her dad passed away. But I show that picture because when I was 18 and I prayed for those children of my own, and I prayed for my own family, I knew that it was till death do you part. See, whatever is in front of you will help you go through the pain that is beyond that picture. And I want to relate that to Jesus on the cross. And I'll show you the verse in a minute, but it goes like this. Because of the joy that was set before him. So he saw the joy first. He was able to endure the pain of the cross. See, pain and joy go together if you'll let it. But you got to see the joy first. You run the race with the finish line in mind. Does that make sense? So that's the introduction to my message today, because that picture of my family was there before. Now look at the other joy I get, and if I have time at the end, I'll give you a movie, but the grandkids, show them the grandkids. They are my true joy. I'm going to be with them next week. I can't wait. I get them all to myself. I've stopped giving gifts to my children on their birthdays, and I just tell them, I'll come and babysit. You can go away. So we're house swapping next week. I'm going to Canada. They're coming to California. I get to keep these three. And that's what I gift them for their birthday, because that's a gift to me, and why shouldn't I get something out of giving, right? You sow, you reap, right? And they love it. I can't give them a better gift than that, taking the three kids while they go have fun. But those pictures were in my heart at 18. So how do you take pain and turn it into joy? How do you do the whole thing of the joy that is set before you? You get the vision first. You start living healthy. And so just to finish up on my husband's legacy, the last 4 years of his life, he decided that life was about I get to. And many of you know that story. I get to live. Because what's the alternative? I'll see you in heaven. But I get to live today, every day as a gift. I get to love. He got to the point where I get to take out the trash. Because I'm still here to do it. One day we were fighting, because that's something couples do, or should do. I won't tell you why, but you know what happens after the fighting is really good, and was our favorite time. So fights were always worth it, just for what you got later. You know, the joy, right? The pain, the joy. See, it goes everywhere. You can just interpret this any way you want. But anyways, he looked at me as we were fighting. He goes, "Honey, we get to fight." I said, "I didn't want to hear that right now." And he goes, "But think about it. Who are you going to fight with when I'm not here?" And I've often said that. So I just fight with God now, and, you know, he wins every time. So I never get the win part, and that makes it a little bit harder for the joy to come. It takes a little longer. So today I really, and then there's our book back there, there's our chains. I'm so proud of my daughter, my eldest daughter, Jenny. Some of you have met her, because she took her dad's legacy, and literally she's made them into real gold and silver back there, but we still have the originals that are only $20. But, you know, she just started really wanting her dad's legacy not to be forgotten. And she works with the homeless downtown and with the with veterans and that have been forgotten. And she gives them jobs, and part of the job is hand stamping these. So you're supporting them, and you're supporting Relationship Lifeline for couples and individuals that need and are hurting. Our mission is to heal relationships one broken heart at a time, and we hope to be back soon. So I love my kids. I love what they're doing. My 14-year-old, I'm going to write a book, 10 Ways to Kill Your Teenagers. That's my next book. And I figured out 9 ways. If you've got the 10th way, we've got it done, you know. I don't mean physically kill them. You didn't think I meant physically kill them, did you? I meant kill the rot in them, you know. Kill all that they know it all thing. You know that thing, if you've ever had a 14-year-old? They're just great at knowing everything, and they know better than you because they've lived longer than you, and you know, and stop lecturing me. Her favorite phase is, "Mom, you could save a lot of money on therapist if you just want to be my therapist. So since you provided me with a counselor, a grief counselor, since losing her dad, it was about 2 years ago that it really hit her. And I've got her in grief counseling, and the other day is, you know, she was having a bad day, and I just said, Mia, and I start just trying to encourage her. She goes, "Mom, you could save a lot of money if you just want to be my therapist." But since you've hired one, could you just be my mother? And I just went, okay, right, all right. And I can't help it. It's like it's in me. My other two kids grew up in seminar too, and they used to say, stop seminaring us, right? And I thought, when it becomes your way of life, it's really hard to let go. Well, let's get into the message. In Joshua 1:9, and I'm not going to have you put that up yet, Sam, but I just want to tell you that that's our base, okay? It says, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Whatever state you're in, he's with you. Now, I understood all of the verses. I understood it all where it said, I command you. I get that. And I got the strong and courageous. I got that. And I got the don't be scared, don't be frightened. But then it came to the word dismayed. And as I was looking at that this morning, I thought, I don't really know what dismayed means. What does it really mean? I've heard it, and I've heard it said in this verse, but what does it really mean? So I thought, well, you know what? Google has the answer, I'm sure. So I looked it up, and it says to break down the courage of something completely. Would you have thought that's what dismayed meant? Listen to how it goes on. As by sudden danger or trouble, to dishearten thoroughly, to daunt. That's the meaning of the word dismayed, and it's there, and I thought, and I've never stopped to wonder what it meant, yet it's probably the strongest word in there. And then it says, this is the part that I found interesting, the surprise attack dismayed the enemy. Are we surprised when the enemy attacks? Are we dismayed? Or can we surprise him? Can we surprise him? What if we could surprise him instead of being dismayed? Let's surprise his attack. Because that's what he said. I've commanded you not to be surprised by it. You surprise him. Push back the forces of darkness. Push back the pain and say, because on the other side of this pain, when I showed you my family picture, the pain that came in my marriage after that could have had me leave the marriage, that gave me the right to leave the marriage, they say, was an affair 14 years in. That could have dismayed me. That could have surprised me. Trust me, it did. It made me affair. Because you see, when I read Joshua 1:9, it says, have I not commanded you? In other words, he commanded us to be strong. What does that mean? I'll have the tendency to be weak. He's not denying it. What does it mean? Don't be frightened. I've commanded you not to be frightened. That means he knows that I have the potential of being frightened, of being scared, of being in fear, so that it absolutely paralyzes me. I've been there. It says he commanded us to be courageous. That means he knows that some days I'm going to have no courage. None at all. I'm going to be like, who is it in the Wizard of Oz? The Tin Man. Wasn't it him? No, who had no courage? The lion. He had the lion suit. He couldn't roar. But he was a lion. How could that be? He had the power. He was the king of the jungle. That's who we are. But yet God says, I've commanded you to be that. The lion was born to roar. Yet, he had no courage. And so his commands are straight. But he's not denying that we're going to be frightened, that we're going to be dismayed. We're going to be surprised. You know, I still get surprised at every attack. And you know what the worst part of that is I have got to be the dumbest student of attack world maybe I should go in the military for a while. You know, where you kind of figure out where the landmines are, or you know how to act when you know you're in a landmine field. But I've been doing this work for, 25 years at least, this particular work where I'm working with broken-hearted and doing the seminars. But prior to that, was in pastoring, youth pastoring, children's pastor. I started at the age of 18 training for youth work. So I've been in this a long time. But at least for 25 years, the day before we start an intensive seminar, there's always a breakdown. Physical, emotional, or just a hazard that happened, but always huge. Let me give you just a few examples. The day we found out my husband had cancer, stage 4, was in the first break of our relationship Lifeline, 4 days. About 20 couples there considering divorce. And we find out by a message on our phone from just a simple, he had just gone to remove a mole on his leg. That's all it was. And the doctor calls that Thursday afternoon, as we've already done about 4 hours of work in our intensive. And we hear the message at dinner time. Ron, you need to get home. Because we were in California, home is Canada. You have stage 4 cancer. Day of. And I could give you example after example. 2 or 3 times in a row, I ended up in the hospital the night before. And I said, you got to check me out. We can't check you out. You are so drugged up right now. That's why you're feeling good. I didn't know drugs felt good. I'd never done drugs. But they took away pain. I can see why people escape to them. And I said, no, I'll sober up right now. You've got to release me. He says, ma'am, the minute we don't give you this shot this morning, the pain will come back fierce. And I said, I still got to go. The minute I walked out the hospital door, the drug wore off. I felt no pain. So it's always the day of or the night before something is going to destroy. Everything I've had to deal with my 14-year-old in the past year has always been that weekend. Something huge, I've got to go, I've got to leave. Something's happening. So I know when his attacks come. I nearly canceled this trip the day before. And I told her I won't be going unless this gets straightened out. That night, it got straightened out. I was on a flight at 8:30 in the morning. So you'd think I wouldn't be surprised anymore. But you know, it surprises me every time. I'm going, really? Like, really, right now we're going to deal with this? Yep. And so do not be surprised. But let me tell you about the joy of the pain. I'm going to tell you a story that I told you Friday. And it was funny because my book, what has happened since then, the joys and the pain, some of the joy, sometimes when you say yes to God and you want to say no, but your mouth says yes, and then you walk away and you think, why did I just say yes to that? Like, seriously. Well, a couple years ago, I was at a church, and pastor asked me, would you go to India with us? And I said yes. And I went, no, I don't know. And I left the church, and I'm mad because out of my mouth came yes, and everything in me was saying no. And I remember calling Margaret, which some of you have met, my partner in crime, and I said, Margaret, I just committed myself to 2 weeks in India. She goes, you didn't. I said, I did. She said, what happened to the commitment you made to us that you were not going to travel for the next 2 months? And I said, I don't know. It wasn't my mouth. She goes, Tina, take accountability, be responsible. You said it. Why do you need to go to India? They have a team. You don't need to go visit orphanages. That's not part of our vision for this year. We are restructuring. And you need to be here because you're the visionary. And I said, Margaret, I know. But I said, yes, I can't say no to a pastor now after I said yes. So I went, and the team was like throwing up their hands. And they said, okay, well, that's Tina. But watch what God does. It was painful for me to go. I did not want to go. I had no good memories of India. I'd been there 2 times before. It is not my cup of tea. My cup of tea is hurting children, but when I see hurting children like that, it physically, I can't deal with it. And so I'd rather just send money and missionaries, but please don't let me go see it. And I have adopted so many kids everywhere just to give them a better life. I've even tried to get them out of some of those countries, out of India especially. They won't let you adopt children from India. So for me, it is always a heartache to go there. It takes me a long time to get back on track, and I feel like I need to be Mother Teresa and just go live there, but I'd be a mess all the time. So it's a really hard trip for me. But I went, and the pastor said, it's not actually about see, at this time I'm thinking I am signing up for orphanage, right? I'm signing up for going and feeding the children. I'm signing up for going and holding these children that have AIDS or leprosy or whatever. That's what I think I'm signing up for, because that's part of their ministry over there. So after I said yes, he calls me, goes, Tina, there's going to be it's a conference. I said, it's a conference? He says, yes, we're having a conference for all the regional pastors in that area. It's going to be about 120 pastors and their wives. We want you to do a marriage seminar while you're there. And I said, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. Okay, I can do this. I did still visit orphanages. I did still go do my ventriloquism for the kids and all that, and I enjoyed it. But I went and I did this, and guess what? Who the other speaker was that I did not know when God said yes for me. It was Greg Smalley, who works at Focus on the Family. So here was I thought I was going there and going to be in pain, and I was still grieving. This was early on in my own grieving. I didn't want more pain. I wanted to lick my wounds. And here I am, it's a pastor's conference. Greg Smalley, who works at Focus on the Family, is helping me with the marriage seminar. And we start talking about our work. And he says, I need to introduce you to some people at Focus. He goes, what else are you working on? I said, I'm trying to write another book, but just can't seem to sell it. He goes, what is it? And I said, well, it's on spiritual damage. He goes, nah, that's not going to sell. I says, I know. So I renamed it. And he goes, so what's the new name? And he said, I said, the other woman saved my marriage. And he said, stop. Do not sell it to another person. He said, this needs to be presented to Focus. So that yes, that was so painful to me, turned into a book that Focus on the Family is publishing. Is coming out next month. So a couple of days ago, I said all that to tell you this story because I'd forgotten about this story of pain. But in the book, I actually have it as one of my illustrated stories, that sometimes when you're in an affair, or sometimes when an affair happens to your marriage, or sometimes when something so devastating like death, like I'm no stranger to loss. Your pastor's, children's pastor's family that just suddenly lost their father. I'm no stranger to the loss of a father, to the loss of a husband, to watch what my children are going through, especially my 14-year-old, because it's not fair that her dad died. That's the second dad on this earth that she has lost. So is she that child who he has to become her father that I saw in Israel? Yes. And there is joy on the other side. But in my new book, I wrote the story of the labor. A woman in labor and giving birth to a child. I'd already had my first child, and it was painful enough. It was all natural, no drugs. They tried to put some mask on my face to help me through it, and I just threw that thing off. I couldn't handle it. But when they offered it to me for the second child, I said, don't put that on me because it really suffocates and it's worse. And so they didn't. But here I was in delivery. For all of those of you that are mothers and have had natural children, you know some of the pain. Well, I didn't know childbirth pain until my son decided to see the world right side up. That means he turned midstream. Okay? Don't try to visualize that. It was just ugly. It was painful. It was hurtful. But listen to what I'm about to say. My husband had to walk away because I was going to kill him. So the doctors just said, move away. And when they saw what happened, they said, we need to take her into the operating room. I was still in the labor room. We need to take her into the operating room. Things are going bad. I'm not hearing all that because in that moment where he turned and he hit my lower back, I screamed. The loudest shrill you can imagine. For some reason, that scream helped the pain. So that's all I did. I continued to scream. Now, on this gurney, you think it's funny, you should have been there. On this gurney, on the way to the operating room, guess what? I'm going past every labor room there is. Some of them in the first stage of labor, and some of them new moms, like first time. And they're like, and the nurse tells me, you are scaring everybody. You know, and I don't care who I'm scaring. I'm screaming, right? And I keep screaming. We get into the opera, and there's nothing they can do to stop me. I have found the antidote to pain, okay? It was too late for them to give me anything, including the mask. I would have taken anything at that point. It was too late. They needed to get me to the operating room. So all the way down to the operating room. Finally, we get in there. They've got to move me from this labor bed onto the operating bed, okay? And so I'm 200 pounds, all right, with baby still inside. And so they're not going to be able to move me because I'm not helping. I'm not listening. Tina, we need to move you. Finally, the nurse, little tiny Asian nurse, just as tiny as you can imagine. And she looks at me and she goes, Tina, stop screaming. I'm like, yeah, right. Keep screaming. She looks at me again. She goes, Tina, you need to stop. I'm not stopping. She literally, this is the part that was really surprising, she gets up on the operating bed. So they've got the two beds close together. She's too tiny to overpower me. So she gets up on the operating bed, on her knees, sticks out her hand like this. And I'm still screaming because I have no idea what she's doing. And she slaps me as hard as she can across my face. Like the hardest slap I've never felt, and I've been abused. I never felt anything. It just shook me like this, and the screaming stopped. And she goes, stop! And I look at her, and she goes, you are putting the baby in trauma. The baby is at risk. I heard that. And when I heard that, the screaming stopped for the duration. The pain didn't. Because you see, in that moment, she gave me a reality check. My baby is at risk. No amount of pain is going to stop or cause me to not deliver this baby. I don't care the pain now. Why? Because on the other side of the pain, I saw the death of a baby. All of a sudden, the baby became more important than the pain. Is that making sense to you? What's on the other side of your pain? Is it death or is it life? Is it the death of your marriage because you don't want to go through the pain today? Is it the death of your 14-year-old because I don't want to go through the pain of disrespect right now? See, my baby was at risk of physical death. But the Bible says that our tongue has the power of life and death. Do you want me to teach you some healthy living? How many of you have heard, I live in a household when I'm here in Maui, my second home, of dear Mark and Denise Clayton, and I'll tell you, it beats any hotel, and I was staying at a pretty nice hotel. It beats any hotel. Can I give them your address? No. I'm saying, but seriously, it is just so peaceful. But there's healthy living in that house, okay? Everything is salad of some kind or another, and plant-based. And so I decided that because I'm a relationship expert, how about I take that salad that you offer in your home so generously and offer it to my marriages and to my brokenhearted. You ready for some salad? And I promise you, if you have this salad every day, your relationships and your personal life are going to get healthy. What's the first one? Let's go to the first part of your salad, which is the S. It's called surrender. Okay? So if you will surrender and let God command you to not be afraid, surrender the weakness, surrender the discouragement, surrender your broken heart. If you'll surrender, that's your first ingredient. The second is acknowledge. Acknowledge you are going to be fearful. But you're going to follow God. You're going to look on the other side of fear. What's on the other side? I got the joy of a baby and a son. You know, if that son hadn't been born, I wouldn't have those grandchildren. More important than son. I wouldn't have had the grandchildren. He served me well. That pain was worth it. This is being recorded. He's going to listen, isn't he? My oldest daughter, always asked her brother, did you ever think she'd love anybody more than you? Because he's the only boy, so she figures I love him more than the other two. And she did ask him that. She says, do you ever think she could love anybody more than you? Grandchildren trumped him. The next one, so acknowledge all that, okay? Acknowledge that there's going to be the pain, but look to the other side. Next, part of your salad, your L in your salad, let go. Let go. Just say, look, I got to let go of the screaming. I got to let go of the pity. I got to let go of the offense. I got to let go of the rocks. Remember my rocks? The hardness of heart. Let go of it. But even that's not enough to stay healthy and be healthy. The next A is ask for help. See, that nurse that day became my help. She slapped me on the face, and that brought me into reality. Let someone come by you, Mark, and slap you, and then turn the other cheek, Mark, and get that dream. Let someone come by you and shake you up and say, your dream is at risk. Your marriage is at risk if you stay focused on the pain. Ask for help. But then don't go ask for help. This is my pet peeve. Do not ask me for help, and then you don't listen. So the last one is, do something with it. Do something with your salad. Go get free. Become cancer-free like my friend Denise became cancer-free by eating salad every day and more and other stuff. But she decided to get healthy physically. But you know, all the physical health, when I hear her testimony, all the physical health, everything she could have done on the outside of her body was not going to get rid of the cancer until she got rid of the toxins inside that had come from bitterness and unforgiveness. Am I telling the truth? That had come from offense. See, what you put in your mouth physically isn't going to help you if what's inside is rotting it. You can eat all the salad you want. If you don't do something with the rottenness inside, nothing is going to cover it. It's like I had fish one day, and then I threw the stuff in the garbage, the leftover parts of the fish, and my house started smelling. And because I live alone with just Mia, and it just, our garbage doesn't get full as it used to when it was a big family. And I started smelling, and I thought, it must be the garbage. So I take the garbage out, and still the smell is there. I can't figure out. So I get air fresheners, and I start putting air fresheners. And that helps a little bit for a couple hours, and the smell comes back. And I'm going, like, what the heck? And every time I open the garbage can, like, it was more smell. I finally figured out that my daughter had put her plate, we had eaten on paper plates that night, and she'd put her plate in the other side, like the recycle. And I kept emptying the garbage. She had put a plate with some leftovers on the recycle side. So you see, no matter how many air fresheners, the stench came back. It doesn't matter how much you try to work on the outside. If you don't get the hardness of the heart out of the inside, the pain stays in. And as long as the pain stays in, you can't resurrect like Jesus did. You can't get to the other side where the joy is. You've got to go through the pain. You've got to go through the pain to get to the joy. And, just for me, I always... I just did a couples retreat, and I wasn't going to show this. I did it for about 300 people for a church, and we were in Palm Springs, and it was a full weekend. But some of them came to me and said, your family video really touched me. It made me realize that the stories you shared about some of the pain you've gone through, some of the disappointments, the death of my husband in the prime of our ministry. He lived 4 months and was able to leave a legacy. Some of that pain, some of the pain I'm currently going through, and I have to count it all joy. Do you know what I do when my 14-year-old gets to that place where she just feels like, Mom, I don't want to live? Mom, I just hate it here. I hate everything. And she gets to that place where I can see the darkness come over her. And then she gets to the place where she tells me, it's you, Mom. It's you that's causing me pain. It's you that won't let me have Instagram. It's you that doesn't let me live like a normal kid. It's you that's institutionalizing me. It's you that doesn't trust me. It's you. You're the reason. See, then the enemy likes to turn the attack on me. And you know what I see in that moment? The same picture that she sees when she's under the Holy Ghost. She says, Mom, I know that one day I'm going to be standing on a stage and you're going to be sitting in the front row and you're going to say, that's my girl. That's my girl. See, that's the prophetic word she's had. And she said, Mom, I saw it. I saw hundreds of kids out there and they heard my story. And Mom, they were helped. They went home. A lot of them would run away from home, but they went home. I keep that picture. In those moments where I feel like, when I get dismayed, when the enemy attacks her, attacks me, attacks our family, I get that dismayed feeling, that surprise. And so I showed this video of the joy. This is my happy place. But you see, because of decisions I made back here, that an affair wasn't going to kill my marriage. God, who is the healer, could heal it. And he was going to heal it. And since then, I've seen thousands of marriages saved. From worse and not so bad. So I want you to watch this video.
I've had many tears and sorrows. I've had questions for tomorrow. There were times when I didn't know right from wrong. But in every situation, God gives me blessed consolation that my trials come to make me strong. And I've been in a lot of places, and I've seen a lot of faces, but there were times when I felt so all alone. And in those quiet hours, yes, those very lonely hours, Jesus lets me know that I'm his own. And through it all, yes, through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Through it all, through it all, I've learned to depend upon his word. I've learned to depend upon his word.
That's my family. That's the joy that's come from the pain of the decision I made when it looked like it was all going to end. That's the joy, and more joy to come. Every time I go somewhere, I give you a challenge. Those of you that have family, those of you that don't have family. It's real easy to make these videos. By the way, that was my husband singing through it all. He had a voice, he used it for God's glory, and that was his song that he recorded, one of my favorite songs. See, he saw through it all. He knew his family would be okay because he saw through it. I'm going to give you a challenge. If you're not computer techie, you've got a techie church. Get them to help you. I want you to make a family video with your favorite song behind it. I want you to just grab a bunch of pictures. And I want you, that's what they do at funerals? They get all the family pictures and all the memories together. And they show your life after you're dead. We all do it. Why don't you do it while you're alive? Why don't you show the joy while you're alive? Why don't you start making the pictures come alive in your heart? Put your favorite song behind it, and on that day of discouragement, that day that you feel like you can't, you feel dismayed, you feel frightened, just say, God, you've done it before, you can do it again. Look at, these are the times. Do you know that that's what the children of Israel did when they traveled? God would say, put an altar here and put a rock altar there, just so that you can remember, and then you can tell your children and their children. I want you to stand. And I don't know what your tradition is here, but if you feel that today you want to surrender, and you want to acknowledge, and you want to let go, you want to ask for help, and then you want to do something, I want you to come up, raise your hands, and just surrender it. If you want to start eating some salad today, salad of your heart and soul, just come on up. Let us pray for you.